Hello again. Chapter Chapter 4, Part 3. It came to me in a flash. Eddie had shown me how to do it. We'd tried it in the playground at school, hiding behind the dustbins where no one could see us. A piece of paper, a bit of glass, and the sun. We had made fire. I could make fire. I didn't have any paper, but leaves would do, and I had this piece of glass. I ran up the beach and gathered whatever I could find from under the trees. Bits of cane, twigs, all sorts of leaves. Paper, thin, tinder, dry leaves. I made a small pile on the island and sat down beside it. I held my piece of glass close to the leaves and angled it to the sun. I had to keep it still, quite still, and wait for the first wisp of smoke. If only I could get a fire lit, if only I could keep it alight, then I could sleep by it at night. It would keep the flies away and the animals away too, and sooner or later a ship had to come by. Someone would spot the smoke. I sat and I sat. Stella came over to bother me. She wanted to play, but I pushed her away. In the end she went off and sulked, stretching out with a sigh under the shade of the palm trees. The sun was roasting hot, but still nothing happened. My arm was beginning to ache, so I arranged a frame of twigs above the leaves, laid the glass across it, then crouched by and waited. Still nothing. All of a sudden Stella sprang up from her sleep, a deep growl in her throat. She turned and ran down towards me, wheeling back to bark her fury at the forest. Then I saw what it was that had disturbed her. A shadow under the trees moved and came lumbering out into the sunlight towards us. A monkey? A giant monkey? Not a gibbon at all. It moved slowly on all fours and was brown, ginger brown. An orangutan? I was sure of it. He sat down just a few feet from me and considered me. I dared not move. When he had seen enough, he scratched his neck casually, turned and made his way on all fours slowly back into the forest. Stella went on growling, long after he had gone. So there were orangutans here as well as gibbons. Or perhaps it was orangutans that made the howling noise, and not gibbons at all. Maybe I'd been wrong all along. I'd seen a Clint Eastwood film once with an orangutan. That one, I remembered, had been friendly enough. I just hoped this one would be the same. Then I saw smoke. I smelled smoke. There was a glow in another amongst my pile of leaves. I crouched down at once and blew on it gently. The glow became flames. I put on a few more leaves and a dry twig or two, then some bigger ones. I had a fire! I had a fire! I dashed into the forest and collected all the debris, all the dried up coconut shells, all the wood I could find. Back and forth I went until my fire was roaring and crackling like an inferno. Sparks were flying high into the air. Smoke was rising into the trees behind me. I knew I could not rest now, that the fire would need still more wood, bigger wood, branches even. I would have to fetch and carry until I was quite certain I had enough to keep it going, and enough in reserve. Stella, I noticed, would not come with me into the forest, but stayed waiting for me by the fire. I knew well enough why. I kept a wary eye out for the orangutan myself, but I was too intent on my fire not to worry much about him. My pile of wood was huge by now, but all the same I went back into the forest one last time, just in case the fire burned itself out quicker than I expected. I had to go deeper into the forest, so it took a while. I was coming out of the trees loaded with wood up to my chin when I realised there was much less smoke coming from the fire than there had been before, and no flames at all. Then through the smoke I saw him, the orangutan. He was crouching down and scooping sand onto my fire. He stood up and came towards me now, out of the smoke. He was not an orangutan at all. He was a man. End of chapter 4. I think this is Kensuke. I don't know. We'll have to find out. Next chapter. See you soon.